Welcome to the Cabin Fever Show.
Vintage sewing accessories, can you explain?
Well, sure. Most of these are attachments that go on your sewing machine that help you do some of the fancier sewing or some of the trickier bits. Most sewing machines come with kind of a basic assortment, and then there are a lot of fancy ones you can get. These are some of the extras, if you like. This one here you can use to make pleats or ruffles, which is a pretty tedious process if you're doing it by hand, but this makes it automatic. And it goes right on your sewing machine where the regular presser foot would go. And you can adjust, this piece shifts to adjust the depth and number of pleats if you're making pleats, or how close together your gathers are. The fabric feeds through here, and then this tongue goes chunk, 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 and pushes it in and makes your pleat for you, stitches it down. The edge stitcher lets you put two fabrics together with a very narrow seam, like this lace. These are all just, the edges are abutted together, and then you get a very narrow, fine seam with a flat fabric. You can use it to attach a piece of piping, and the rickrack is also attached with it. You can also use it to make pin tucks. So you have all these little folds in the fabric. And most of that is for decorative purposes. Your narrow hemmer makes very fine hems. This would be really tricky to do if you were trying to turn it yourself and press it and stitch it exactly. But the narrow hemmer just...
What's a shearing foot?
The shearing foot is, it's also called a gathering foot, and so it makes little gathers in your fabric. This makes a little ruffle by just going down the center and feeding it in. And you can also make rows of gathering. This is with different stitch lengths, so you can get tighter or wider gathers.
What's your favorite?
I really like the binder foot. It works really well. Some of these can be a little tricky to manipulate, but you can put a beautiful bias binding on a piece of fabric.
So it basically provides the edging for you?
Well, you can buy pre-folded bias tape at sewing stores and feed it through, and it will apply it around the edge and stitch it down. Or you can make your own. You can cut a bias strip, and these pins act as a guide. And this scroll here folds it up, gets all the little folds you need, wraps it over the edge, stitches it down. So you can make it out of any fabric to match what you're making. And you can also sort of stitch it down flat. This is called a French fold. And it's just a piece of bias tape that's applied as a decoration. But you can go around curves with it because it stretches a little bit. It's just a really pretty easy edge for aprons and pocket edges and all sorts of things.
Now this is one part of your collection, right?
This is one part.
Collect older fashions as well?
Yeah, older patterns. I do a lot of costume design, so I'm always looking for historical fashion reference. And generally, there are a lot of different things here, but the guiding principle for things that I like to collect is, are they things I can use? So the Hug Snug is a rayon seam binding. Modern seam bindings are made of polyester, they're kind of stiff, but the rayon is really soft, and you can shape a curve with it. And it comes in tons of colors. It's still made. You can purchase it, online or whatever. But the vintage stuff comes in lots of pretty colors, and if I see a roll of it, I'll just grab it because I know I'll use it someday. But yeah, that's in general.
And you use some of those sewing machine
Oh, yeah.
accessories, so you still sew?
I still sew. This is a little scarf that I made with the edge stitcher,
Nice.
and it's just strips of vintage lace all abutted together. Still a lot of things that are that it's easier and more effective to hand sew. I know there are historical sewers out there who make entire 18th century gowns by hand. No machines, just hand stitching, things like that. And in the way it would have been done. And you do have a lot more control over what you're doing if you're hand sewing. But the sewing machine definitely speeds things up.